So, this year's budget has been all about the Indian middle class, isn't it? Well, taking into consideration the amount and the load of memes that the Indian middle class citizens have flooded the social media with, it comes as no surprise that the anticipations of this year's budget has not been met. The thing is, why I am going to discuss the budget today, although it is not my domain and I dare not compare myself to various teachers and experts out there, because I'm always inclined towards learning something new, of analyzing things. Initially, I like all the various YouTube channels which are filled or analysis which are filled. They normally the summary of the budget, the highlights of the budget, they are already in your on your fingertips. They you can access them anywhere. But the thing is, the finer points, like the presentation title, is more than just statistics. I want to concentrate on that. That I'm not going to bash the government. I'm not going to narrate any statistics. I am going to introspect, try and introspect retrospectively what went wrong or why this so-called criticism, why there's ruckus in the parliament, why the opposition party is saying that the manifesto has been copied and pasted into the budget document. So we need to analyze some points. I'm no expert, again, I'm saying, but I learned a few things which I would very much like to share with you. So in the past 10 years, when BJP enjoyed a single largest majority in the parliament, it was it had novel ideas and we can say noble intentions of bringing large scale massive reforms. But the thing is, the last 10 years have been marred by calamities or catastrophes like COVID, which sufficiently or adversely reduce the consumption power of the common man. So, like some of the important reform measures, like cutting the corporate tax, it came at a time when the economy was not ripe for development or generating jobs. So, for example, the government cut the corporate tax so that the interest rates would become uh, lower and the companies or the corporates could borrow loans easily and they could in turn churn the employment opportunities. So Modi government's aim of minimum government and maximum governance could be fulfilled. So the burden of job creation or employment creation would solely be borne by the corporate sector. That was the idea. And in order to prevent red tapeism or to prevent delays in expediting the projects, various projects, the corporate sector could go forward and generate employment opportunities. The government would only be involved in regulatory policies and whenever essential infrastructure like roads, hospitals, schools, railways, and whatnot would be needed. But what happened was that apart from COVID, you might have heard of K shaped recovery. Even after COVID, the recovery was in favor of the well off. So that is why this graph, if you remember, you might have come across when COVID was at its uh, mm, was subsiding. So this the lower income group, it became worse off. It became even more difficult for them to recover from this COVID shock. And moreover, India is a labor surplus country. So you might have heard of several production linked incentive schemes rolled out by the government in the past. Now, what the thing is, production linked incentive schemes, it is based on the concept of providing subsidies, subsidies or incentives to the corporate sector or the companies in lieu of their production efficiencies. So it was meant to generate jobs. But in a labor surplus society such as India, the companies easily replaced this surplus labor by machinery. So it was not. Now, in the current budget, the focus of attention is on this ELI instead of PLI, that is employment linked incentive. which we'll discuss somewhat in detail. It is important because in this discussion, I'm not going to discuss all the nine pillars that Finance Minister Srimati Sitharamanji focused on, because that will take a large amount of time. I am, with respect to the retrospection and the introspection that I was talking about, I'm going to focus on those sectors and why immediate reforms are needed and what made the government turn away from a middle class friendly budget to focusing on other areas, and the prime among them has always been agriculture. So in agriculture also, we see that government, for the past 10 years, it had an ambitious target of doubling the farmers income. That has not been met. Then the contentious three farm laws that were repealed, the massive protests which took place, some good reforms like the goods and services tax, then the insolvency and bankruptcy code that were rolled out. But despite that, the overall economic growth has stagnated or declined. So, taking that into consideration and taking lessons, valuable lessons from the Lok Sabha result, the government has declared or worked out, made this budget, carved out this budget, which needs to be understood in much depth. And from the point of view of exams, prelims or mains, this concept in GS3, GS2, how the budget is prepared, what is the procedure, how it traverses the length and breadth of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, whatever committees are formed, the annual financial statement, whether the term budget is mentioned in the constitution or not, all these things have to be catered to. I'll not discuss them here. So let's start. So basically, Article 112 of the Indian Constitution talks about the annual financial statement. The budget term is not used. Now, this is what I was talking about, the interesting terms which often get mired or transparent in these controversies and this government bashing and this barbing of trades and blames and copy pasting or whatever manifestos are there. So this climate So this climate finance taxonomy is a novel concept which is very important from the point of view of exams and also in general when we talk about whatever reforms, and any discussion is incomplete without a healthy discussion about climate sustainability. So what exactly is this climate finance taxonomy? Basically, it is taxonomy or classifying the market instruments, portfolios, or investments as environmentally sustainable or environmentally friendly. So often, when investments are made, it is very difficult to classify or name them as climate friendly or sustainable, although there are methods. But you might have heard of certain terms such as greenwashing. Greenwashing is a technique used by the corporate sectors to earmark their investments as climate friendly, to position themselves as climate sensitive organizations, even if they are contrary to the climate goal achievements. And what we need is this climate finance taxonomy to classify, to categorize, to segregate, to name or define those investments so that the market can choose whatever portfolios and instruments are there and invest in those climate friendly initiatives. And like the slide behind me saying that India, in terms of green finance, you might have heard of various funds, international funds like the Green Climate Fund. Of all the FDI inflows that have been taking place in our nation, The green climate inflows, they contribute only around 3% of the FDI. So India has a lot of potential for smart investment systems. For example, India aims to achieve net zero by 2070, the one of the major targets of Panchamrit. It wishes to reduce the emissions intensity of its GDP by 45% as compared by 2030 as compared to its 2005 level. Then there is scope for investment of a massive $667 billion in the electrification of our economy. India plans to, or it aims to convert the vehicles into electric vehicles by 2030. Then in the renewable sector also, whether it be wind energy, solar energy, there is a lot of scope for investment of the tune of $467 billion. And recently in the budget also, the energy security has been emphasized by the finance minister. The Har Ghar Bijli Yojana and rooftop solar, the subsidies and incentives, the subventions which have been provided in the budget document. Then India's climate smart investment potential of 3. So as per the International Finance Corporation, and this 3% was the landscape, according to the landscape. So that green finance, that finance or the funds which are intended towards investment in climate friendly infrastructure and services, that has been not appropriate or apt for a huge nation like India. Okay, then already these terms, this taxonomy has been adopted by countries such as South Africa, Colombia, Thailand, Mexico, and India's. We have already talked about this renewable energy and the 667 electrify. So this concept is very important from the point of view of prelims, mains, and in general awareness also. Okay, so coalition budget. Now we know that a point of contention or a point of talk is the doles or the huge amount of allocation of money that has been done to two states in particular, Bihar and Andhra Pradesh, because obviously it is not that it is investment is just to please or appease the chief ministers or the coalition members of the NDA to not leave the government. The thing is that in any coalition government, if you see in the past also, have you ever seen any reform or any policy or any law, any expenditure, any budget that has been rolled out or declared without taking consideration into the constituent parties, regional parties or state parties in that coalition? No, it is not possible. But again, we have to introspect that whether that expenditure which is targeting two states in particular, but it's two states in particular, whether it is actually creating some asset or it is just a dole out of money. So that is why I took the effort of researching what has been given to Bihar. So this is a topographical map of Bihar. So some points I'm just going to reiterate from the budget is majorly the expressway. So we have talked about the expressway roads, but majorly you crores of rupees have been doled out. So what exactly is being done? So these expressways, Buxar to Bhagalpur. This expressway is in the pipeline. Then from Patna to Purnia, it also gives me an opportunity because geography being my domain, it's not that I can remember or I remember all the places, all the locations. And Bihar, when it comes, there is still a significant stereotype in the minds of Indians that it is and it always be a backward state. So maybe infrastructure investment will bring about some change in that perception, if not on the ground level. Then there are spurs or local highways which will sprout from these major expressways. They will go through Vaishali, Darbhanga, then to Bodh Gaya, Rajgir. Then focus is on roads, focus is on airports, focus is on medical colleges, focus is on sports infrastructure and tourism as well. And this picture is of the Vishnupad temple, which is poised to become part of a tourism corridor alongside the Mahabodhi temple complex in Bodh Gaya. So this is in Gaya, the Vishnupad temple. So I was just studying about it, so I came across something interesting. So the although I don't believe in stories, but the culture which we possess, it is important to understand. So why the legend says that he Lord Vishnu, he placed his foot on a demon Gayasur and it drove him through a rock of basalt. So this entire structure is basically made of the basalt rock, and there is a particular imprint of Lord Vishnu, which is preserved in the premises. Okay, and other areas. So this is Bodh Gaya and some rivers, because I always keep talking about geography. So here, this the Champaran district. So this river is the Gandak River. Then this river is the Soro, Bihar, Kosi. This is the Son River, and this is the mighty Ganges River. And it is not that expressway is going to be developed all out of the blue. It is, if you might have heard of the Purvanchal Expressway, which is being developed in Uttar Pradesh. So this expressway, Buxar to Bhagalpur, will be an extension of that expressway, and this Pir Panti Bhagalpur is also district. So this Pir Panti power plant is also going to be invested into. So these are some of the important things which I came across. So this cartoon should not be taken personally by anyone. So it's a coalition budget. So it is natural to pander to the demands of the coalition forces. So here, irrigation, flood mitigation through the accelerated irrigation benefits program. Then barrages to control floods. Bihar often being a low-lying area, and it is fed by rivers such as Kosi, Gandak. So they are the plain area is prone to flood. So that management, roads, airports, medicals. Purvodaya is a scheme basically targeting the holistic development and growth of regions, infrastructure, economy, employment, social issues. Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, Odisha, and Andhra Pradesh. Potential question for prelims and example in mains. Then for Andhra Pradesh, 15,000 crore for the development of the greenfield capital city Amravati. So it is nothing new. Somewhere sooner or later, some or the other government would have had to provide this kind of money and investment to provide for the development of a capital city. We're talking about capital city, and it was a great loss considering the transfer of Hyderabad, the erstwhile capital, to Telangana. Okay. Then Polavaram project, again important from the point of view of prelims and GS2 conflicts, interstate conflicts. So this Polavaram project, this tribunal was in the news also, and industry and essential infrastructure, the basic amenities, water, railways, roads, power, electricity. So these have been the major criteria of Andhra Pradesh and Bihar's budget respectively. So this was talking about the difference between ELI and PLI. So now the basic thing is that there are two terms, unemployment and unemployability. Unemployment is it is rising with increase in the degree or the educational achievement, but unemployability is a major factor that the workforce, the millions of people that are entering the workforce every year, they are lacking the necessary skills to be suitable for particular jobs. So since the production linked incentive scheme was not working the corporate sector, so it was said that, like Lord Hanuman once forgot in Ramayana to its flight capabilities, so the corporate sector also has forgotten its duties and responsibilities of production linked incentive anyways. So this scheme, this is based on enrollment in jobs and enrollment in the EPFO scheme also, Employment Provident Fund Organization, and it basically has three schemes: employees, employers, and employers. And the second scheme, it focuses on the manufacturing activities as well, because we know a significant part of the GDP is served by the service sector. So this manufacturing, whether it be semiconductor manufacturing, whether it be vehicles manufacturing, whether it be own manufacturing, anything. So that manufacturing is lacking in our country. So the schemes, I'm just going to be brief. There is just stats about it. First timers, so month's wage will be provided to all employees of all former sectors up to 15,000 rupees in the form of direct benefit transfer in installments, and 1 lakh is the limit of the salary and benefit. It is supposed to benefit 210 lakh youths. Then job creation in manufacturing, incentive to employ and employer, and with respect of first 4 years of enrollment or employment, benefit to 30 lakh youths. Support to employers, additional employment in all sectors. Whatever additional employment the employer is creating, he will get benefit for that. Limit of 1 lakh, 3K per month reimbursed for 2 years towards EPFO contribution for each additional employee, like I said. So this is the distinguishing point. And benefit, it is supposed to benefit 50 lakhs. So the employer is also happy in that way. So again, continuing one of the major pillars, employment and skilling. So 20 lakh youth skilled, because like employment linked incentive, and why the economy has failed to generate not only economic growth but lagging in the generation of economic employment opportunities as well. So skilling. So skilled over 5 year period, and 1,000 industrial training institutes upgraded. Financial support up to 10 lakh for higher education in domestic institutions, e-vouchers to 1 lakh students at annual interest subvention rate of 3%, and loans up to 7.5 lakh expected to help 25,000 students every year. Then setting up of working women hostels in collaboration with the industry, establishing creches. So the females or the women who have children, so facilitate, so all inclusive growth, that Viksit Bharat, that is to be taken into consideration. So next major component, resilience in agriculture. So the such some important points I'm going to. So transforming farm research, boosting output of pulses and oil seeds. And recently you might have studied in the news that maize, it is not an oil seed, but maize is poised for a green revolution. So just read that article, or otherwise I'll share in one of my subsequent lectures. So pulses and oil seeds, sunflower, safflower, okay, mustard, that promote natural farming using natural resources, getting rid of the fertilizers. So this deregulation of fertilizers and providing massive fertilizer subsidies has always been in the news. Then resilience in agriculture. So some important, interesting new. So digital public infrastructure survey for kharif crops in 400 districts, taking advantage or taking leverage of digital technology. Issuance of Jan Samarth based Kisan credit cards to be enabled in 5 states. You already know about the Kisan credit cards, aimed at focusing on providing credit to farmers with less vagaries or less vulnerabilities to loan default. And then financial support for nucleus breeding centers for shrimp brood stocks. So even if the vegetarians are watching this, don't think this is part of our economy. And aquaculture, this is part of aquaculture. So the rearing of the aquatic life and promotion of the blue economy as well. So shrimp is a type of aquatic animal, but this brood stock, this I studied a bit in detail just for your knowledge. It was interesting. So brood stocks, what they are, the mature shrimp, and they are reared or they are bred in consonance with manipulation of the environment. So we have a lot of shrimp. We take the mm, mature broodstocks or shrimp, and the large broodstocks, they produce a lot of offsprings or progenies in quantity, and we make targeted breeding a practice, so that these shrimp, they are much less vulnerable to diseases, pests, and other environmental changes. Manufacturing and services, another very, now the basic is, we are not talking about in general about the large companies, MSMEs. Now MSMEs, the micro, small and medium enterprises, they have a very important pivotal role to play in our economic growth and development. They provide employment to the tune of 11 crore people. They provide about 40% of the manufacturing output. They contribute 45% of the total exports. They contribute 28% of the manufacturing GDP, and they are suffering despite of various schemes. They are suffering. So because of credit unavailability, then the crash of startups and all that. So special intensive, particularly labor intensive manufacturing, like leather and cotton textile industry. So the production linked intensive scheme, like I have already mentioned earlier, it was unable to transfer or forward its benefit to generation of employment. Limit of mudra loans under SIDBI enhanced to 20 lakhs from the current 10 lakhs under the Tarun scheme. That is one of the schemes. There are certain tiers. So this will particularly benefit those people who have availed the loan and then repaid it successfully in time. Then financial support to 50 multi product food irradiation units. Then food quality and safety testing labs with NABL accreditation. E-commerce for those artisans and MSMEs who are finding it difficult to export their products worldwide. So e-commerce export hubs in public-private partnership mode are poised to be established. Then comprehensive scheme for internship in 500 top companies to 1 crore youth. Now again, the opposition is saying that not only have you copy pasted, but you have manipulated it in such a way that you are not directly giving employment. You are just giving it an image or mirage of providing employment. But it is not that directly employment or directly money can be transferred, because other things have to be taken into consideration as well. So this was basically about today's session, a very brief session. Just I was trying to highlight what all introspection needs to be done. So till next time, Jai Hind.